Hi, I'm Kean Wong, and welcome to The New Millionaire. This show isn't just about money, but about you and discovering your passion. And who better else to talk about passion than Dr. John Gray, world famous author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Over 40 million copies of his book sold worldwide and translated in 40 languages. And in Chinese as well, so you can get lots of different interpretations of this book. So welcome to the show.
A real pleasure, thank you.
Yeah, from monk to millionaire, relationship guru. How did that happen?
Well, most people don't know, as a relationship expert, that I started out as a monk. And my own journey was such that I excelled at that. I devoted myself. That was my passion. I had wonderful teachers that inspired me. I learned the way they thought. I learned their actions. And that was a big part of it, is learning to take into me that which I admired. So that's the first important secret of success, is find out who you admire, what you're attracted to, and completely pull that into you. Live it completely. I did that for 9 years. And around that point, I was feeling very, very satisfied and happy in my life as a monk. My brother was bipolar, manic depressive, and the spiritual process didn't really help him. And so I followed my heart again. Going from monk, I said, I'm going to go back and study psychology, hoping that that would help my brother. And I think a lot of people, when they find the challenges in their own life and they follow their heart to overcome those challenges, that becomes a spark of great success in their life. So that was my journey. I would have never planned to be a counselor, to be a relationship expert, and never planned to be an author. Never even thought about it. It was just one of those things that happened to me, in a sense. People said, we love your message so much you have to write a book. And I said, but I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to do that. But the universe, people called on me to do it. And I just followed it and said, okay. So the journey to success is always a journey of following your heart.
But at what point what process did you go through to decide you wanted to get into therapy and being in counseling as well?
Well, the process was literally, my brother asked for my help. And I couldn't help him with, the spirituality was not helping. It's a good thing, but he had literally a chemical condition in his brain called bipolar. He would be very excited, then he would crash down in depression, and it was a clinical disorder. I decided, okay, if this doesn't work, I wanted to help him. I'll do whatever it takes to help him. And I think that's always behind great success. It was when people truly care about helping other people. And in studying psychology to help my brother, I then became this famous therapist. But I would have never even gone in that direction if my brother hadn't been sick.
And that's quite often the case, and a lot of people who became successful went through all this adversity and they found their passion, found their calling. What sort of advice would you give to a lot of people who are going through that? I don't know what I really want to be. You know, I want to make money, and there's so many opportunities out there. What would your advice be?
Well, I think the most important thing, like in my journey, people say, did you ever imagine yourself being an author? No. Did you ever imagine yourself being a relationship expert? No. It was like being on a journey, one step at a time, and being in a state of uncertainty, yet following your heart. I remember, this was a very trying time in my life when I stopped being a monk. I had no money. I moved to California. I started looking for, what am I going to do? How am I going to support myself? I got a job doing something that really wasn't what I wanted to be doing, but at least it paid my bills. And I continued doing that job that paid my bills while I started doing my study, knowing that eventually I'd save up enough money so I could just devote myself to doing what I was learning about. And there was a whole part of turmoil just going, I know I'm here to do important things, but I didn't know what it was. I couldn't find my way. But I just stayed with it one day after another, opportunities coming. Saying yes to what was possible was a big key thing, as opposed to my fears would come up and, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know. Can I do that? I just said, if I want to do it, I'll try it. And if I can get support, I'll move in that direction.
So you finished your studies, and what happened after that?
Well, I was starting to teach. And something I'm very good at is teach. I talk very well. It's something very spontaneous I did. And again, that seminars were very little, but I just stayed at it. It was one step after another. Men Are From Mars became this massive, big, world best-selling book. And people think it was an overnight success. It was not an overnight success. It was 10 years, that journey, 9 years as a monk, then 10 more years developing those ideas, teaching small seminars, advertising. Maybe 5 people would come, 10 people would come, occasionally 60 people would come. You go, yay, and then 3 people would come. I had to, and even have my book published. I was rejected again and again from one publisher to the next publisher, till finally I published it on my own. I gathered my finances together. I published it, printed it, did the whole thing myself, but I didn't even get a distributor. So I had to go around bringing it to the stores myself. It was so discouraging, but I had to believe in myself. And I believe, as everybody in this business of creating success and making your dreams come true will come back to the conclusion, you have to believe in yourself. And what strengthened my belief in myself is every time I followed what I thought was going to be true or what was true, in spite of the resistance, it's like lifting a heavy weight with lots of resistance. Those muscles got stronger. I had to first believe in my vision and what I could do before the world went into agreement.
Did you have any mentors, any teachers, anyone to guide you? Because you went from studying to, then you just started to do your own thing.
No, I had lots of teachers along the way. First of all, in my spiritual practice, I had wonderful teachers, and I was attracted to them, and meaning that I admired them. I wanted to be like them. And I did. I achieved enormous success in that spiritual world. I was a big teacher in the spiritual world, being a monk. But then I started all over, coming out into the world of making money. Who were my teachers there? I started taking seminars. I started taking classes. I started reading books from people who had achieved success. And I just saw, for me, I saw other people doing what I wanted to do. And that's, for me, in my journey, that's how my vision became more clear about what I wanted to do. Because I'd see other people doing things, and I'd say, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. But I have to find my own way of doing it. But that gave me more of a direction. And I think that's how everyone learns their direction, is you see someone else somewhere close to where you want to be, and you feel admiration. You want to be like that, and you follow that. And you try to get as much support from that person as you can by learning the way they think or working with them.
Were there many detours? I mean, you hear about it so often that to be truly successful, you had to fail many times before. I mean, what was that journey like?
Oh, well, there were lots of detours. For example, the first book that I did finally publish. Then I wrote another book, again, self-published book called, it wasn't Men Are From Mars yet. No. It started with one book.
What was it about?
Well, that first book that I wrote wasn't so much about the difference between men and women, but it was about healing your heart, keeping your heart open, finding forgiveness for people. You see, if you're in your life, if you feel like you're a victim of other people who've disappointed you, people who've betrayed you, people who've hurt you, and if you wake up every morning thinking, my life would be so much better if those people hadn't done what they did, then you're a victim. And when you have this victim consciousness, you feel like I could be better except that. You're just affirming to yourself, something's wrong with me and I have less power than I should have. But when you see that every situation has taught me a lesson and I can learn and grow from that, and I don't feel like a victim. In a sense, I can say, thank you for teaching me that. Now, I don't want to have you betray me again, but thank you for teaching me that lesson. Then I'm in present time creating my future, not saying to myself, I can't have what I want because of what that person did. Instead, I go, because of what's happened, I'm now more capable of creating what I want in my life. And that's a very important attitude, because if you feel like a victim, you tend to just create more people in your life to disappoint you and betray you, as opposed to more people in your life to teach you lessons. And then you come from this place of, I have the power to make my dreams come true. And that's the entrepreneurial spirit, is that I have something in me, a seed that's growing. And sometimes I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm following in my journey, almost like a blind man, but getting signals. And does it work here? Does it work here? And I continue to go in the direction where I feel I will be successful.
Let's come back after the break, and we're going to discuss how you made it big with the book, how we went from that small fledgling, a few hundred books here and there, to this incredible, the best-selling relationship book in history. We'll be right back.
NTD TV is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you. To learn more, go to ntdtv.com. Thank you.
Welcome back to The New Millionaire. Today we have Dr. John Gray, world-famous author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And we've already talked about his initial journey of discovering his passion, but now from the trials and tribulations of getting that, the first few books out of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and how did it become that bestseller? What was that journey?
Well, after the tour, in a sense, didn't generate the sales, then I just continued saying yes to every opportunity. And I didn't have a publicist. I just advertised in a magazine that said I was available to speak for radio. And every day I just kept answering calls and doing radio shows, and radio shows. 7 months later, due to all those radio shows and word of mouth, then suddenly the book appeared at the very bottom of the bestseller list.
Really?
Very bottom of the Publishers Weekly. So it was like 13 or 14. Then I went to the bookstores and said, okay, how's my book selling? And they said, it's out of print. It was actually on the bestseller list for 4 weeks, and yet all the bookstores couldn't order the book because it was out of print. It was a mistake by my publisher.
Mistaken. They didn't get enough ready books to be sold.
That's right.
How many books were sold at this time, roughly?
Maybe 25,000.
25,000 on the 13th already.
And
That's
it made it to the 13th spot. And the bookstores couldn't order anymore because the publisher had decided to already go into paperback, so the hardback wasn't available. And they were going to launch the paperback about 6 months later. So the bookstores were all saying, it's out of print, it's out of print, so nobody could get it. Well, I was devastated. What are you doing? I'm finally on the bestseller list, and I can't, people can't get my book. And I can't tell you how many authors feel that way at times, can't get the book out there. But I just continued to promote the book. And then in January, this was, the stroke of luck, which is the Phil Donahue show had me on. And Phil let me be on the whole hour. And this was the breakthrough for my book, and because I got the national recognition. But here's what happened with that. Phil Donahue, unbeknownst to me, they had all these people that didn't like my book. So they're going to have me on, and then all these people were going to say how bad the book was.
What didn't they like about it? It was a little bit controversial.
It was very controversial. It was talking about how men and women are different. And in those days, this is 17, 16 years ago, people were saying that men and women are the same. So it was this controversial thing. They had experts to say that my ideas were not good ideas. And I didn't know that. And then what happened, right when the show was about to be taped, there was a whole crisis in the country, and the show was canceled, that was the first day the towers in New York were bombed. The bomb went off. That was in 1993.
That's right. So
Phil did a special show on that. And I told him my schedule was completely booked. It'd be very hard for me to come back. Wouldn't they just tape the show anyway after he did the taping on the bombing of the 9/11 buildings, or the Trade Tower buildings? Well, Phil said, okay, well, we're going to have to use the same audience, but this audience is really quite upset. I don't know if you want this audience. And I said, we have to use it. So it was like the worst of the worst of the worst was happening. But I said, let's go with it. So I sat there on stage, and people were really negative about my book. How can you say this? This is ridiculous, and men shouldn't be this way. And because it was so slanted against me, Phil Donahue, because part of his thing he does is he's a balancer.
Yes, that's right.
So he ended up defending me. So throughout the whole show, he was defending me against all these people.
Pretty good endorsement.
It was a great endorsement. And then when the show aired, or was supposed to air, the publisher had the books in the front of the store for the publish, and then it canceled again. But the books sold out. And then again, the show was supposed to air, so all the bookstores got the books ready for it, and they sold out without the show. It wasn't until the third airing that the show finally aired, and then it was about, again, a month later that it finally went to the bestseller list. And it stayed 6 years on the bestseller list, broke all records.
Unbelievable.
My belief was that I could help people with this book. And I have to keep coming back to that, because that's what fuels our passion. That's what fuels the energy that gets behind success, is a feeling in our heart that this is a way I found that I can meaningfully affect people's lives. And that is the foundation of all success. And it's different for everybody. We all have a seed in our heart that as it grows, can truly enrich this world and make this world a better place.
Absolutely. That's what it is about, isn't it? Making a difference. I remember about 10, 12 years ago when I came across the book in Australia. It's Men Are From Mars? How did you come up with that brilliant title from a marketing point of view, branding point of view?
It is fantastic.
It
is such a wonderful phrase. It's become a catchphrase in society. And all I was concerned about for the 9 years where I developed the ideas of Men Are From Mars before I put them in a book. So I'm out there teaching it and teaching it. It wasn't always called Men Are From Mars, but I kept saying, I need a way to explain this in a fun way for people, because it was very serious. People would get very serious. What do you mean we're different? Relationships. I had to lighten it up. So I kept going, I need a way to lighten it up. And basically I was praying every day, find me a creative way. I need a way to lighten this up. because I used to be a very serious speaker. Now it's very entertaining when I talk
absolutely.
about it. It's fun. The people laugh about it, everything.
Edutainment.
And I remember that the talk when it happened, I was talking to a group of people, and you never know as a speaker what are your best ideas, but I just happened to say to my audience, I said, women, if you've all seen the movie E.T., extraterrestrial, and it was a very popular movie back in 1983. And I said, you've seen that movie, the little E.T. from another planet. Imagine your husband's from another planet. And they all laughed. Suddenly it was like, man, I just happened to say this one thing. Imagine your husband's from another planet. Then somebody said to me, well, what planet is my husband from? And I said, Mars. And they all laughed. And I thought, this is great, humor. So then it just took a little more time. I think I found it. If I can imagine, talk about men and women as if they're from different planets, and then worked out men are from Mars, women are from Venus, because it was playful, it was flattering to men, it was flattering to women, and I just stayed with it. And people have said since then, they say, you don't change, you just keep going over the same thing. I go, no, I change a lot, but I always come back to that formula that works. And that's a very sort of Martian tendency. If it works, don't change it.
Don't change it, absolutely. Now, what sort of tips do you have for people who've got great ideas from a marketing point of view? Test marketing was obviously what worked.
Oh yeah, listening to feedback. See, part of my development in writing that book, it was 9 years of teaching those ideas and listening to feedback. You have to hear feedback. And there's a part of me that wants everybody to be happy. I know everybody can't be happy with what I say, but I try. So I would I test it out. I test it out with people, and I'd ask them always at the end of my seminars, I asked, what was it that I said that was helpful to you? And that was a real key thing, because I could then hear it through their ears. What were the words I was saying? Because often as a creator, someone who's creative, we don't know our best ideas until we hear the response. And that's a key thing, is trying it out, getting a response, trying it out and getting a response. And particularly my strongest ideas are the areas where I got the most negative response in the beginning. See, like I'd be if I'm going a little bit in the wrong direction, I'll get a negative response. So I kept working on it until I got a more positive response. For example, what used to be said about women is that when women have emotional reactions, that they're overreacting. And of course, you can't say that, but that's what all men were saying, is that women are having these strong emotional reactions. Actually, men were saying they're overreacting. And I thought, how can I make that point without offending women? Because it was offensive, because it made it seem like women are wrong for having these emotions. And I just asked the question after thought about it for a while, then I addressed that. And my reaction to that was, women have strong emotional reactions, strong emotional reaction. And then everybody was happy with that. And then there's the idea where men in their relationships, when men are under stress, they often just want to be alone for a while, watch TV or read a magazine or something, and they don't want to talk about their day. So I had to create a metaphor, easy way to understand it. So I said, imagine my husband's like, he has to go to his cave for a while. He goes to his cave, and then he comes out, and people love that idea. So it was finding a metaphor that people could easily, in a humorous way.
Cave time. I love
Cave
that
time.
concept.
Just have an enjoyable time.
It's TV or meditation. It's
That's
all
right.
a little
Whatever
bit of
it
quiet
is.
time.
Yeah, quiet
for guys.
time.
Absolutely. Let's come back after the break, and we're going to talk about the new book, Why Mars and Venus Collides. I mean, this is a very stressful world we live in, and Dr. John Gray will talk about the specific strategies and tips, especially for entrepreneurs or people, in terms of money, the stress related to money today. We're going to come back and talk about that. We'll be right back. You've heard of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, but what's this new book, Mars and Venus Collides? This is the sequel. We've been waiting for 15 years.
That's right. That's right. It's Men Are From Mars explains how men and women are basically different. For
How
example,
are we different?
Okay, well, our brain. The wonderful thing about the new book is actually explain how our brains are different, how our emotions are different, and how that causes us to have different reactions, particularly under stress. So the basic reactions, and I start talking about it in Men Are From Mars, and it's also in here, which is when men are under stress, they often want to stop talking. When women are under stress, they want to start talking. And this is just the way our brains are wired up. And what I explain in my new book is that both men and women have a stress center in the brain. It's called the amygdala. It's twice as big in men. And for men, it responds to big problems. But for women, it responds to lots of little problems. So this is what will happen in relationships. Women will see all the little things that are going wrong, while the man's thinking, that's not important. Here are the big stuff we've got to focus on. So when men have this amygdala, the stress center gets activated, then all of the wiring in the brain from the amygdala goes to the front part of the brain for action. So men want to do something about it, and if there's nothing they can do about it, then they want to forget it. So often men will just say to women, just forget it, don't worry about it, or let's do this or let's do that. And that is a different reaction and not supportive to women, because when women are under stress, all of the wiring inside the brain goes to the emotional part of the brain back here in the middle of the brain. So literally her emotions become stimulated, and the communication part of the brain. If she can talk about her emotions, then she calms down and feels relaxed. For a man, when he's under stress, if he can do something about it or forget the problem, then he feels relaxed. So it's like the opposite reaction. So no wonder we have collisions. She says he doesn't listen, and she says she complains too much. And that's not really a problem if you understand what she needs versus what he needs. And when we have a positive attitude about our different needs, then we find creative solutions to solve those problems.
Let's talk about money, because that is the biggest source of stress in relationships.
Yes.
And a lot of entrepreneurs out there have to deal with how do I juggle relationships and so on. What are some of the key concepts behind this new book that could apply to people when it comes to money?
Well, particularly when it comes to success and money, I would say that this is phenomenal success that I've had. And I know part of the secret of my success is that I've never made my success more important than the people I love. And fortunately, in my business, I understand relationships. So I understand how to support my relationship while I'm busy being successful, how to make the right sacrifices. There were many times when the national programs would call me on vacation with my wife and family, and I had to say no. I remember one time it was a national show, and they said, we're going to give you a whole segment. I said no. Then they said, we'll give you 2 segments. I said no. Then finally they called back and they said, it's ratings week. We'll give you the whole show if you come now. And I said, no, I'm on vacation with my family. My wife was very grateful to me. And to this day, I go, darn, I missed that show. But I know...
Could be an extra 5 million copies, but that's okay. It doesn't matter in the big scheme of things.
In the big scheme of things, you have to follow your value system. That's what makes you trustworthy to people. See, when people in success, all success is built upon other people trusting you. So if I am someone who values and stays true to the people that are important to me, they trust me, the world trusts me.
What specific tips? Like, for example, whether it be a male or a female who has a business and the other partner complains, you don't give me enough time.
Always the case. Always the case. Here's the secret with women, is that you understand that when women are under stress, they need to talk about the problem. If you listen to her and ask more questions and ask more questions, then literally a hormone called oxytocin, which I talk about in this book, when you communicate, oxytocin goes up, stress levels go down, and suddenly she becomes less needy or less demanding. Really what she wants more than anything is your attention and your understanding. And if you can just listen and hear her point of view without talking her out of it, not only will she feel happier, but in your mind, you'll figure out creative ways to spend a little more time for the relationship, more efficient time in the relationship, while also you're making your business dreams come true.
So in terms of quality, quantity, is there a guideline, at least half an hour of conversation a day, an hour? No matter how busy we are, we need to schedule that time in for that communication.
Not even a half an hour. 10 minutes, 3 times a week.
3 times a week
is
enough?
If you can do this, but this is the secret. You've got to make sure it's a very efficient use of the time. And I don't mean that's all the time, but you need these efficient moments where a man can say to his wife, honey, I'm not going to say anything. You just tell me what's going on in your life. And basically, it's better if she says, you just listen, don't say anything. And while she talks, she just talks for 10 minutes, and then she ends it. You don't have to say anything.
We don't have to say anything to solve the...
See, every man would be happy to just listen to his wife as long as we don't have to say something. And women don't realize that. They think that, they're going to be seen as selfish if she doesn't ask you at the end, how do you feel, what do you think? But every man knows when she says, how do you feel about that, what do you think? Whatever you say, it's the wrong thing. And it undoes all the good. So really, these one-sided conversations where a woman can just vent, talk about the things, the problems in her life, while a man listens, he doesn't try to fix it, doesn't try to solve it, he doesn't have to change it.
What do we do?
Nothing. Just look at her face.
Look at her face.
That's the whole key. And even that will put a man to sleep. So what you have to do is look at her eyes, then look at her cheeks, then look at her nose, her mouth, her chin, her forehead, her whole face, back to her eyes. Because this is an amazing discovery, is that men's stress center is hooked up to his eyes. As long as men's eyes are changing what you're seeing, it gives men energy. That's why men like action movies. If everything is changing, if the eyes are taking in new information, it actually gives the brain more energy to listen and focus. So men can do this as long as they're not trying to figure out what she's saying and solve it, but but keep their eyes slowly moving. You won't even see my eyes moving. I'm just sort of looking at your eyes, then your face, then your nose. It just keeps me busy while she's talking. Because every man knows you start feeling restless when a woman talks. So this way you're able to channel that restless energy and just looking in different places of her face.
What about the other way? How do women better deal with stress?
How they can help a man?
Yes.
Okay,
right.
The way a woman can assist her husband is to know that when you're complaining about the things he doesn't do, his stress levels go super up. When you criticize what he does, and women don't even realize they're criticizing. For example, he could take her out to dinner, and she'll just start talking about how bad the soup is. And she doesn't know that on an emotional level, if he brought her to that restaurant, that's his soup. He made that soup. He cooked that soup. Whereas if it's two women, they'll just talk the whole evening about how bad the food is. But by talking about it, they feel better. Not to do that with a man, because he'll take it personally. So when a man does things for a woman, she needs to take special care to acknowledge it and appreciate it and be careful about giving him unsolicited advice. That's what women want to do, is you should do this, you shouldn't do that, you need to do this, why aren't you doing that? That's how you treat a child. That's not how you treat a man.
How do you better treat him in terms of communication? What's some of the phrases that we should use, or common mistakes that we say in terms of...
Well, here's a common mistake that women make when talking to a man. If, let's say she's missing some romance. Instead of going to him and say, you're never romantic anymore, or why don't we do something fun? We never do anything fun. That's just a negative message to him. It sounds like criticism. Instead, just say to him, honey, would you buy tickets to the theater for this weekend?
The New Tang Dynasty Spectacular.
That's it. Would you get tickets to that and take me? And if he resists, you just let him resist, and then you say it again in a very pleasant voice. You say, I know you don't want to go. I will appreciate it so much, because I'll be so much happier if you're there. Even if you don't like it, take me.
We just want to make people happy.
That's
don't we?
right. That's what men
right?
want. They just, if they know it's going to make her happy, he'll be willing to do it.
Oh, fantastic. Where can we find out more information? Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We can get the books pretty much anywhere.
Anywhere.
Many different languages all
Yes.
around the world. And you also have an online community as well. So
I
we
do.
can plug in, listen to the teleconference calls that you have.
Every week there's a new presentation I give on relationships and one on health.
Live.
Yes, live, right there.
Fantastic.
And it's at MarsVenusWellness.com. MarsVenusWellness.com.
We'll put that on the website for sure.
Thank you. And also I have another site called MarsVenus.com, just MarsVenus.com. And there people can get coaching if they want to get coaching on success or relationship. Most importantly, how to effectively cope with stress. Because when you lower stress, then you're going to be most effective, you're going to have more energy, and you're going to have more creativity.
Especially in today's world where we're going to make a lot more money to deal with the mortgages and the recessionary environment. Thank you so much for coming onto our show,
It's
John.
a real pleasure.
And that's all we have for The New Millionaire. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.